Aw yeah, Rivers here with Tech Connect, and today we're going to take a look at Sony's all-new a6500 camera. I'll show you what's new on the camera compared to the Sony a6300, which I also own and have used heavily over the past year. Now, first off, I can tell you this. The upgrades are exactly what I've been wanting on this camera. The a6300 had a couple things that made it not quite versatile enough, and I actually carried two cameras around, the a6300 and a video camera, the a6300. One of my main issues was the lack of image stabilization on the a6300. The a6500 now has 5-axis stabilization, which helps a ton. The stabilization is definitely the best new feature, so let's take a closer look at it now. So first I shot on the a6300 handheld, zoomed in to 50mm, and it only has a little optical stabilization of the lens, but basically no stabilization. Then I shot on the a6500, and I even zoomed in all the way up to 70mm, and I noticed a big difference. It was much more steady, and especially the little shakes and vibrations were mostly gone. It's even better when shooting wide angle. Here at 16mm handheld, it looks really good on the a6500. It definitely makes handheld video a lot better, and it also helps for still shots a lot because it can keep your shots from being blurry if you're moving around a little bit. Next, I thought I would test it while walking against the best stabilized camera that I know of, and that is the Sony a6300 camcorder. The a6300 has balanced optical steady shot, where the optical block floats separately from the body of the camera. So this is where I realized that the stabilization of the a6500 is not specifically made for walking and shooting, as you can see here. It is meant to shoot photos and remove shake and vibrations from handheld video shooting. I read that the stabilization is supposed to add the equivalent of 5 stops as far as reducing image blur in photos goes. Anyhow, it's still a heck of a lot better than just optical stabilization through the lens. It does work really well, but it's not as good as balanced optical steady shot. Now the night video, it's amazing. This looks exactly what it looked like while I was shooting there. The colors are actually really good on these rainy nights, so check out this short clip I made. Next, I want to show you the slow motion and time-lapse video options on the a6500 because they are really awesome now. Slow motion is much improved over the a6300 because the camera has the option to save slow video in camera and you don't need to slow it down in editing software later. This is awesome and the way it should be done on all cameras in the future. The a6500 can also record at a sustained 120 frames per second in full 1080p, which translates to about 4 to 5x slow motion depending on your playback frame rate. It looks great as you can see here, but I think 240 frames per second is the sweet spot. You can also shoot a time-lapse straight to video now, which makes it much easier and more efficient. On the a6300 you could shoot a time-lapse using an app, but it was slow and laggy and much more difficult to work with. So much so that I used to either shoot time-lapses on a smartphone or shoot the video then speed it up in editing, which took up a lot of hard drive space. This new way works really well, so let me show you how it works. So in the menu sections under Movies, you'll see S&Q settings, and the bottom setting for frame rate is how many frames it will capture per second. So if you choose 1 frame per second, it's going to capture a time-lapse, and if you capture 120 frames per second, it'll capture a slow motion video. And the record setting is how many frames per second your actual finished video will be. So it works great and it's much easier to edit these files too. I do want to mention the remarkable video quality, especially when you're shooting in 4K. In my opinion, there's really nothing under $5,000 that beats the a6500 in 4K video quality right now. What it does is it shoots the video in 6K, then downsamples it to 4K, and it looks just amazing. Here's some sample video from my trip to Maui, shot on the a6300. Now both cameras have the same sensor, so the a6500 would have done even better since it has the 5-axis stabilization as well. I want to mention the only complaints I have about the camera, and they are to do with the screen. First, when you have the screen set to bright and then you start recording in 4K, it dims the screen. It only does it in 4K and not in 1080p. It's probably to save battery and prevent overheating, but it throws me off all the time because when I'm outdoors I can barely see the screen and I think I've messed up the shot. Luckily, you can look through the viewfinder and see what the camera actually sees. Now, I really like that the screen can be flipped up and down, which is super helpful, but I wish so much that the screen could be flipped around to be seen from the front of the camera. That would make this the perfect camera for me. It would make an amazing vlogging camera too because the quality is there. I was using my Zeiss 16 to 70mm lens and it did a stellar job. There is one thing you can do to get a front-facing screen, and that is link your phone or tablet up using the camera app, and then you can see what you're seeing on the screen, and it actually works really well. There are so many other new features, but I can't show them all in just one video. I do want to mention the touch to focus, which comes in handy sometimes. There's also the faster processor and faster autofocus. There's also a feature called clear image zoom on the a6500 and several other higher-end Sony cameras that I did a video on already, so check that out. Now here's one more feature that's really cool. It's called priority set and auto white balance. It makes it so that the a6500 really nails the white balance in indoor shooting. You see, my house has these greenish beige walls which fool cameras really easily, and my videos come out a bit yellow sometimes. Well, with priority set and auto white balance set to white, the camera looks true to life. This is what my house really looks like. I'll add links to the a6500 and the Zeiss 16 to 70 lens, which I could show you where you can get a great deal on, and all the other hardware in the video in the description down below. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. If you like this video, be sure and subscribe to my channel to see more videos like it. Hit that little like button, and if you know any secret features or tips and tricks, put them in the comments down below. It'd be great to share them with the community. Okay, thanks for watching, and as always, aloha.